Do you need a sound test? Can you hear?
You're good. Yeah, I can.
Oh, okay.
If you just want to start with your name, your position, what you do.
Okay, Joey Jones. I'm the Associate Athletics Director for Strategic Communications here at App State.
Now, sports information director, not a lot of people know, what they do because they see a lot of the athletic teams. If you maybe just describe what an SID is and how, it's really a position in college. It's not the same as in professional sports, different names, but kind of just a basic explanation of what they do.
Sure. So the sports information profession is definitely a behind-the-scenes profession, and it's really our jobs to kind of shine the light on the teams and the players, the coaches that are part of the programs here. And so to define exactly what we do would probably take a lot longer than any interview is possible.
Yeah.
But certainly we are the liaisons between the athletic teams here and a lot of other constituencies, which includes outside media, it includes the Sun Belt Conference, the NCAA, the general public as far as updating our website, appstatesports.com, social media. We kind of just handle all kinds of information that go out from our athletic teams. And then we also handle any kind of requests from the outside, which is like interview requests, photo requests, those sorts of things. So we're definitely the middlemen in a lot of ways. But also we handle the public relations for the athletics department. So anytime you have big news, breaking news, anytime you need an official spokesperson for any kind of event or occasion that's going on here, we handle that as well.
And with a lot of sport teams, why is it important to have someone who's able to track those stats, be able to put things out, just have kind of such a big staff instead of maybe teams running it?
Yeah, well, as you know, in sports, there's a lot of numbers, there's a lot of stats, awards, just a lot of information that somebody's got to kind of put in a manageable order and in a way that's easy for both your general fans, your hardcore fans, and your media that need to digest it in different ways. So we're kind of responsible for taking all the things that happen on the fields and the courts and taking those stats for, inputting the stats, making sure that they're all done correctly, and then disseminating those to all the people who need them, and trying to do it in a way, whether that's writing press releases and recaps or producing infographics, just trying to make it in a way that's easy for people to read and understand what happened.
Every job needs a different skill set. Going to college, learn different things. As you mentioned, there are numbers in this, but what are some of the bigger qualities and skills that you need to be in this profession?
The number one skill in this profession is communicating, which almost goes without saying, but it's very important that you know how to write, how to speak in ways that communicate clearly, because you're all day long, that's what we do. Whether it's writing emails internally with other athletics department people, whether it's writing the press releases, the social media posts, the feature stories, there's just so much writing and communicating, you have to be able to do that. So certainly you find a lot of people in this profession have journalism backgrounds, have PR backgrounds, or even just English. You certainly have exceptions, but you have to be able to write and communicate. And then it helps to obviously know sports and to enjoy sports because you're doing it nonstop every day. And knowing sports has a lot to do with numbers and stats also. But that's usually kind of the secondary thing behind being able to write.
How did you get into it? Have you always liked sports, or was it writing? Yeah, how did you get into it? How did you kind of start?
So I grew up just a big sports fan like a lot of other people. And it's funny, my mom always told me if I would stop paying so much attention to sports and playing with sports, so to speak, and work on my homework more, that I would do better. And I kind of laugh at her now. I'm like, look, I get to do this every day for fun, but it's my job.
Yeah.
So I definitely grew up loving sports. I went to school at University of Georgia, and I really didn't know what kind of profession or line of work I wanted to get in, but sports was something I enjoyed, and I ended up one way after the other getting in touch with the Sports Communications Office, which is their term for SID there, and I started working women's basketball games, and then that one thing led to another, and learned a lot under one of the legends of the profession, Claude Felton at Georgia, and when I graduated, I needed a job, and that was the experience I had working there, and I had really enjoyed it. So I just looked into that and got an internship at Ole Miss under another one of the legends in the profession, Langston Rogers, and a 6-month internship turned into 12 and a half years there, which led me to here.
And in PR, I mean, the differences between PR journalism and journalism, they try to get this story out, get the breaking news out. But with PR, I mean, you want your school to look good, the teams you're covering. So what type of messages do you try to have people know about the sport teams and stuff like that?
It's helpful to know the journalism world because we're interacting with journalists all the time. And certainly there's a lot of elements of what we do that is, news writing. The difference as far as from a PR side is you always want to make sure you're putting out the positive side of what's happening. And so, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, your newspapers and your TV stations are going to focus a little bit more on the negative because that's what gets readers, that's what makes the headlines, and those things are newsworthy. But there has to be somebody who's making sure that the positive stories are going out, the community service stories, the academic achievement stories, in addition to the success of the teams. And so that's really what our job is, because we are employed by the athletics department, and so it's our job to make sure that we're showing off all the positive things that these student athletes and coaches are doing who work hard day in and day out for the school.
As you mentioned, you kind of started with an internship too, and I know there's some interns here as well, students. Why are student interns important, and what do they kind of do to help you guys around?
Well, as I mentioned, Claude Felton at Georgia is one of the legends of the profession, and he always told us when I was a student there, he said the quality of our students in our department is what makes or breaks the SID office. And that was from one of the legends of the profession. Georgia had a lot of other really good full-time SIDs, but he made sure that we knew that the work that we did as students kind of took our office from being good to great. And really as a student, there's so many things, there's just a lot of tedious work in this profession that's not always quite the glamorous side of sports that you think of, but somebody has to do that research for game notes, somebody has to update bios, somebody has to be able to keep files and archives in order, and sometimes that ends up being students because they're starting out and learning how to do things and how things work. And so and definitely you want the best students you can who know how to write, who love sports, and who can really help you again take your office from good to being great.
And being an SID, I mean, there's always news breaking, whether it's the summer maybe sometimes a slower time, but also trying to get some different things out. What's it really, I mean, I know you probably have vacations at points, but what's it kind of like having kind of like a year-round job, no off season really?
You definitely get used to just working all the time. And those of us with spouses and families are very grateful to our spouses for putting up with all of that kind of work. I mean, there's about a week at the end of June and the first week or two of July that are a little bit slower, but usually the other 49 weeks are pretty fast-paced and chaotic. And you just kind of get used to it. It's your normal, and it's fun. The part of the reason that I love this job is because you always are doing something new every day, and so it's never boring at all. And I know there's a lot of other kind of 9-to-5 cubicle jobs that may not quite be that way.
And what's probably your favorite thing about being an SID?
Ooh, favorite thing. That's tough.
Or a good moment that maybe had you think about something that this is why I do it. Or
I'll tell you what, there are times where you work that 70 or 80 hour week and you just think, wow, is all this work worth it? And then I think about what I would do if I weren't in this profession, and it just wouldn't be nearly as much fun. I mean, as much as we work our tails off, it's actually fun to be at the games, to get to know the student athletes and coaches, and I think that's probably the main thing, to get to know them and also your co-workers and your other administrators and just the relationships. Because I think life is truly about relationships more than, you're not going to remember the specific task you may have done, but you remember the people, and that's really what makes it fun.
Kind of the final thing. I mean, you've only been here a few months, and you came from Ole Miss, which is a bigger school. I mean, just kind of like two things. But first, what's your experience been here at App State? And second, maybe the differences between a bigger sports school and a school that maybe is not as known as much and trying to get messages out for a smaller type of school.
Certainly the 6+ months that I've been here have been really fun. It's a new role for me, so I've learned a lot as far as how to do this job and this profession. And I've met a lot of really neat new people, so making a lot of new friends and new colleagues. Working with the team here has been really fun with the football team. Scott Satterfield's a great coach. Doug Gillen's a great boss. So I've really had a good time here so far. There are some differences. It's less about the differences in individual schools because every single school is unique. But the difference between like the Southeastern Conference and the Sun Belt Conference is pretty stark. And really it just comes down to the size of the budgets. The budgets for an SEC school are enormous, and I didn't quite realize that until I got to one with a smaller budget. And so you just are forced to be a lot more creative with the ways that you do things, and you may have smaller staffs and a few less resources, but it's actually, I think, kind of a good thing in that you are forced to really be creative in how you organize things, how you message things, what platforms you use, and it's been a fun challenge so far.
You have anything else? You good?
Yeah.
All right. You're good.
All good.